Can you remind me if you'll be so kind? Staring out into space, asking God to hear my case. Trying to think of all things past. How long will my memory last? With purple angel, purple angel, purple angel, you're next to me.
Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. Today, I've got a little frog in my voice. I'm fighting laryngitis here, but hopefully you'll be able to enjoy the show. For those of you that are new, because we get new listeners all the time, Alzheimer's Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort worldwide. And we believe that by joining forces and sharing knowledge and having everyday conversations about life with dementia, that we're going to be able to remove the stigmas attached to memory loss and help those living with this disease continue to live with purpose. I absolutely love our show because I'm honored to be able to talk to people all over the world from so many different types of venues. We talk with people who have dementia and have stories to tell, family members caring for a loved one, and friends, to advocates, musicians, authors, and filmmakers. And we've got, we're going to be talking about a wonderful film today. And we've got not only the director, but three of the actors in the film with us. And it's going to be a really, I think, great, inspiring conversation when we talk about the film Remember When. At our core here at Alzheimer's Speaks, we believe that collaboratively is the only way we're going to win this battle against dementia. And I know it's working because of you. You see, it's your likes, your clicks, your shares with your Facebook friends, your Twitter tribes, your LinkedIn colleagues, your Pinterest friends. It's all of those little shares that just take you a second to do that have had a huge impact in sharing our platform with others in need. You see, those clicks, those shares, those likes got us named as the #1 influencer online for Alzheimer's, according to ShareCare and Dr. Oz. And I can't thank you enough. It means so much to us here that you're willing to do that. I'm a firm believer, after having a mother with the disease for 30 years, that we need to get resources out to people in all different types of venues so that they can tap into them when they need them. And it's working. So again, thank you so much. If you think you might be a great guest on our show, please reach out to me. You can just go to our website, alzheimersspeaks.com. And in the upper right-hand corner in the header, there's a big contact button. You can call me. You can email me. You can send me a Twitter, whatever works for you. But we are about raising everyone's voice because it takes a village. It takes us all in order to change our dementia care culture. I want to give a shout out to a couple of organizations and one individual, Norms McNamara, who is over in the UK, who is sick and in the hospital, but has been a tremendous force in terms of pushing dementia-friendly communities forward, dementia awareness as a whole through his Purple Angel Project. Just want to let him know we're sending him prayers and hopes that he's out of the hospital and up and running soon. And his following is just massive. He's got this dementia awareness program, the Purple Angel Project, in over 17 countries, and it's free to anybody to be able to use. So if you're an individual or if you're a company, all you have to do is read a poster, and you can use this symbol. We want this symbol to be as well known as the pink ribbon is for breast cancer, and there's absolutely no reason it can't be. I also want to give a shout out to a couple of my colleagues here at Alive and Social. Apples to Apples with Drew and Scott Applebaum is on Mondays at 2:30. And there you're going to hear a lot of bantering between a dad and a son about sports. A lot of fun to listen to, again, Monday at 2:30. It's called Apples to Apples. And Another program I think you might be interested in is Mortgages and BS. That plays Thursdays at 4 p.m. with Tom Smith and BT, and there you'll learn about various types of mortgages and home ownership, and they spatter in some entertainment and fun bantering as well with that. So let me go ahead and introduce our first guest on the show today. She is the director and writer of the film Remember When. Swati Srivastava is a first-generation immigrant and an award-winning writer and director and documentary filmmaker. With her background in social and political documentaries and movie narratives with a social message, she has really done just a fantastic job with this film in terms of really reaching a deep experience of caregiving and looking at it from a whole different angle. The strength and support that she found in the human connection she made after her own sister suffered from cancer, and the deep loss that informs in all of her films is going to be really touching to you. I promise you that. Swati is a software engineer, and she's an ardent environmentalist who lives in net zero energy home with her life partner, Mark, who is the co-producer of the film, which has been covered by various media, including NBC for its unique features. So, Swati, how are you doing today? And welcome to the show.
Hi, Laurie. Thanks for having us on your show. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to have this conversation. Let me go ahead and introduce some of your actors here in the film, and then we'll get to the conversation itself. Next, I want to introduce Roslyn Gentle, who plays Rose in the film, and she's an Australian actress. She's got 35 years experience in TV, stage, and film, and also teaches acting and psychology of performance at the New York Film Academy in Los Angeles. And soon she will be seen in American Crime Story, The People versus O.J. Simpson, on FX, which starts February 2nd, which promises to be a really interesting piece. So welcome, Roz. How are you today?
Thank you, Laurie. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on today.
Well, great. Next, I'm going to introduce Stanley Brown, and he is a Los Angeles-based actor and playwright who formerly produced television shows for the History Channel and the Food Network. He's a member of the Los Angeles Theater Company and the Alliance of the Los Angeles Playwrights, and he's married and has one daughter. So welcome, Stanley. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Basking in 75-degree weather, not to rub it in.
Well, it's not too bad. It's not too bad here in Minnesota. We didn't get dumped on like out east, so I can't complain. We had a few flurries today, and they're saying by this weekend it's probably going to melt. So we haven't had much snow here at all. Though you wouldn't know it from the sounds of my voice. You'd think it's been really, really cold. Let me go ahead and introduce Allen next. Allen Perada is an actor in the film, and he's a native Californian living in Los Angeles, originally from San Francisco, and he is featured in this film as well as the 2016 action film Syndicate Smasher. And, excuse me, he has also been tapped to play actors in the upcoming thriller King Sod, and in the indie western called What Child Is This? And I am sorry, I'm just crucifying your introduction here, Alan. I don't know if it's my throat or my eyes going here. He started his acting career in Seventh Heaven, which many of you will recognize him from, in The Renegade and High Tide, and the soap Santa Barbara, and in the films Hook, Body Snatchers, and Mr. Jones. So welcome, Alan.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you all here. I'm going to start with throwing a question out to Swati in terms of the film idea. You know, where did it come from, and why the title Remember When?
Right. So the film, it was a result of many things coming together, as is often the case with many films. My life partner, Mark, who's, as you mentioned, is also the producer on this film, he'd often talk about his grandparents who suffered from some form of dementia before they passed away. And as a result, he seemed to be quite aware of the challenges, and he would mention them often. And as you mentioned, I personally have a deep experience of caregiving. I lost my sister to cancer, and we were very, very close. And that loss and experience permeates a lot of my work. And last year, I was traveling, and I came across an article in just a local newspaper. I was in a hotel, and I was reading that, and someone had sent in a question to one of the personal advice columns, where they had said that their spouse was suffering from Alzheimer's, and they didn't even, the spouse didn't even recognize them anymore. And this person wrote that they basically felt that their own life was over, because if they tried to live or go out or meet somebody, there was such an extreme sense of guilt. And I remember just tearing up as I was reading this short column, and it reminded me, first of all, of my own survivor's remorse, my own survivor's guilt of having survived my sister, of having gone on and through this randomness of, the feeling of, well, why did she go and why did I live? But also just thinking of, just the heartbreaking dilemma and the challenge of being a caregiver. And that's exactly the kind of question I want to explore through my work. And that's when I wrote the script. And it's interesting you bring up this the topic, the title. The working title, when I actually wrote the script, it was called The Long Goodbye.
Okay.
And I'm sure you're very familiar with this title. And that's what it was, the long goodbye that caregivers have to say to people who they love and they're losing. But as we move through, I don't know, just through the work, and we actually ran an Indiegogo campaign for it as well, and then we actually wrote a song. I worked with a singer-songwriter I work with her very often. We wrote this song together, and as we were writing this song, and I also sent pieces of poetry and stuff, and it wasn't quite working, the song, and I was like, well, what is it about, really? What is this thing about? And then we just said, well, really, it's about memory and what we lose when we lose memories and how we are made up of our memories. And so then the last line of the song became Remember When. And once it was said, it was out there in the universe, it just got onto me. And I was like, this film is actually about remembering. Mm-hmm. That's how we keep people alive. That's how we keep, for me as well, my sister, that's how I remember, I hold on, I move on. And that's how it became Remember When.
Okay. Well, it all makes sense. There's always connections to those dots, and I would find it fascinating, the stories behind them. Roz, for you, I'm just going to ask, have you ever been touched, personally with friends or family who have had the disease?
Laurie, I haven't been touched by anyone directly in family or direct friends, interestingly enough. I have worked for two people who have had Alzheimer's. I worked as actors do often, we have several other jobs. I worked as a building manager in West Hollywood for a while, and when I first moved in, the woman opposite me, directly opposite me, had dementia. And I remember her, it was my first experience as a building manager for one, and then my first experience with anyone with severe dementia as well. So it was quite an eye-opening situation. She had no friends or family, it appeared, and so I sort of, myself and the woman downstairs, sort of had to look after her when she would sort of come outside with, soiled pajamas and, just helping her orientate herself back to who she was and where she was. and then she would go into fits of paranoia and whatever. So having to calm her down and try and find someone to help her with something that I was totally unaware of or unused to was one person that I was involved with. Then I started to estate manage for an elderly gentleman who was a very outgoing socialite person, in the 50s, 60s. He was in the art gallery. He was the director of several art galleries around the country. I won't mention his name, but his wife passed, and after his wife passed, it's almost like his life stopped, and he went into very quick decline into dementia and then severe Alzheimer's that took him within 3 years. But I watched him go from this very vibrant man over the period of 5 years to someone who just sat in a chair with his head down and couldn't even speak. He had Parkinson's as well, but could not, when I first started, I knew his memory was going, but it just seemed like memory at that point, and I thought, well, he's elderly, he's forgetting things, but then it very clearly became that it was Alzheimer's, and it was just a very eye-opening experience to watch the whole journey of this man's life go from one stage to totally incapacitated, wheelchair-ridden, no communication, hardly eating within a period of 5 years. It was very, very sad to watch.
Wow.
So I've had my experience of it, but not directly with friends or family, as I say.
Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing. How about you, Stanley? Have you been personally touched with friends or family?
Yes, I have. I have two experiences. One is current. I have a good friend who's a member of my stage group who his wife is 54 and is suffering from early onset of Alzheimer's. And between the Alzheimer's and her medication, she's just not, in a good shape, not in a good place. Usually just, sits and looks at us, and we don't know if she's reacting or not. And they both have a teenage son who has learning disability and is going to, a special ed school. And then his job on top of that is one as a field producer, which takes him out of town. So it's a lot to bear on one person's shoulders. It's a very difficult thing to do. But we had people over to his house recently, and we sat around and we read plays. And she sat there and she watched us and she listened and she laughed at all the right places. And then he just posted recently on Facebook after the passing of Glenn Fry how she sat and watched the 2-hour Eagles documentary and was completely absorbed by it. And it reminds me, it's like when you see our film, that you'll see that the importance of music and poetry to the patients. And it came to me very vividly just recently, being reminded of that.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, the other case I have concerns my mother, and this was, a part of all of our audition process, by the way. Swati wanted to know if we had been touched by Alzheimer's, and my mother, in the last month of her life, was hospitalized, and not for Alzheimer's. I don't think anyone ever came in and diagnosed that, but it was apparent to us that as she was in for medical reasons involving a broken hip and other things, and we noticed after a few weeks of visiting in the hospital, she didn't know who we were. She would just look at us and shake her head and not know who we were. And what became very troublesome is that she would also refuse her physical therapy. And we were notified by our insurance company that was a reason for dismissal for the policy. That if a patient refused therapy, they could dismiss it. And we tried to convey to my mother that it was something we couldn't afford, now, or we certainly couldn't afford it for very long, given the prices. And so, these kinds of stories, there's so many different ones associated with Alzheimer's. There's so many different difficulties that people have to face, whether it be having to deal with an insurance company, having to deal with making an income, having to deal with, someone you're raising while this is happening to you. So many different stories, and Swati's film just brings in one of them, and you realize that, when you see that, these kinds of stories.
Yeah, very, very much so. Allen, how about you? We can hear some typing in the background. I'm not sure if that's somebody here, but if we can mute that, that would be great because we are picking that up. Allen, how about you?
Well, outside of a distant aunt and my girlfriend's uncle, who I really didn't know, I really don't. But my father died of a stroke, and it took him about a year to wither away. So I know what it looks like to see somebody going from a strong, vibrant person to, well, my dad ended up 80 pounds and not being able to talk or use his right side and stuff like that. So in that regard, I know what it looks like to watch a person wither away. But I've heard the stories, and just it's something that just looms over. Oh my God, looms over everyone. I mean, to me personally, it's just every time I forget my keys or I can't remember a name of something that I'm searching for. Oh my God, you think. And so I guess that's my story.
Okay, great. Thank you. Swati, how did you cast the film? How did you choose the actors?
Right. So we hired a casting director, and we held auditions and callbacks in Los Angeles over several days. Now, as Stan mentioned already, one of the things which was very important to me was to find actors who had some kind of connection with, it could be Alzheimer's or some other form of caregiving, especially for the actors playing Rose and George. And one of the reasons for that was that we don't get so much time to prepare and rehearse for a short film when we're on a very limited budget. And having a life experience, I believe anyway, it gives us the empathy and the connection that with the characters that then is sort of easier to build upon. And besides, it's always I find a much more gratifying experience when we are able to work on something which has both professional and personal resonance. And I remember for the character of Rose, I saw nearly 50 actresses for the character of Rose before Ross walked in and just won my heart. And the other actors too, both Stanley and Allen, they were my top choices. They came in and they were very prepared. And, I remember, I don't want to go too much into it without giving the plot away or anything, but Stan also, he brought his life experience in, and the way he walked in, the way he was dressed, it was so clear to me that he was already channeling what I wanted, where I wanted to go. So, and that was the first round of auditions, and then we had callbacks where where a handful of chosen, actors and act off each other to see whose chemistry works well together, and then we made the final choices. Okay,
I'm going to go to Allen because I know that he needs to run to an appointment, and I want to be respectful of your time. Allen, what was your experience like making this film?
Well, I started off, it was just basically an audition for an interesting part. And then, of course, I've got to meet Swati and Mark, and I heard some of Swati's story, and it just became more personal, and there's just such great people to work with. It became like a little family, and we did this in not a long time, so we all worked very hard, long days, and it was just a great experience all around, and it was fun people to work with, and they were so dedicated, and the story was great, and the part from my point of view was interesting and fun to do, and not easy to do either in the time we had to do it, I have to say. But all in all, it was a really great experience, and I'm really glad I did it.
Is this a film you think will have an impact on the world? And if so, why?
Well, I think if you've experienced this kind of thing, it's all around. It's a good film, whether it's about Alzheimer's or not. It's just a good film to watch. It's interesting. There's plot twists and things like that. So in that regard, it's just a good film. But if you have experience with this subject matter, then I don't see how it could not affect you.
I agree. Well, if you need to scoot, I appreciate you taking the time today. I just don't want to make you late for your other appointments.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alan.
All right.
Roz, for you,
Hi.
how did you prepare for the role of Rose in this film?
I think the way I do for any role, but for this one, I can't give away too much of the plot here. So I did use a lot of my experience with the people that I had worked with that I spoke about before, but also in terms of the loss of my own parents. Without saying too much more.
That's okay.
Swati, it's hard not giving away the plot.
Well, the plot is a little twist, and so I really encourage people to watch this because, man, it could go lots of different ways. And we don't want to blow the film because it will really make you think. And if we give it away, we're going to discredit the film by doing that. So we're not doing this to be mean. We just want you to get the most out of watching Remember When as you can, because it is so powerful. And Rose, you just do a magnificent job in your role. You're really very powerful performance. So I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Swati, as a director, what was your process to kind of get the emotions in play? Because I mean, they're just, the timing, everything is just executed so beautifully in this film.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. Well, one of the things, I'm a great believer in preparation and rehearsals. So that I love working with actors. And what we did is we did meet for rehearsals several times, and we created backstory and we improvise, and we during rehearsals is the time when we play, we explore problem areas, we ask questions, we do it wrong. And then not only that we did rehearsals, one was just at my home, but then when we finally locked down the location, which is one of the very important key locations, the home, we actually went back and we had rehearsals there as well, so that, it was sort of, we could really see, how this home would come in play later in the film. And the reason that helps, well, first of all, rehearsals is just great, and we sort of figure out what's going to happen and how the actors feel and where the characters are going and what's happening. But then it gives me the information for shot selections. And because, on technical side, I'm rather detail-oriented. I love to create my own shots. My background, I went to UCL Extension, and my specialization is in cinematography. So I love to design my shots, and that information comes from rehearsals, from what is happening and how the actors are moving and what is going on, and then we prepare as much as possible. And by the time we walk on the set, we have shot lists, we have the day planned out. We know pretty much exactly how the day is going to go, and that way we try to maximize, again, time for the actors. Now, that preparation, also allows us to be flexible on the set, because invariably things go wrong or something changes or you have to make a very quick decision. But because we prepare so well in advance, we are able to then make those changes quickly.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Stan, how did you prepare for your role?
There's always a question, and Alan and I talked about this quite a bit, about whether someone is imitating or acting or just reacting or being or behaving? That's always a question that actors think about. And we both agreed that, this is not a subject that you want to necessarily imitate, because in our research we both found that there's so many different aspects to this condition. It's as different as anyone's personality, as about how it's going to affect someone. So we both took quite a bit of care in trying to make sure that we stayed true to Swati's script, which, if you were to read it, gives you everything you need to know, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much there, and I brought this up in terms of the importance of music and the importance of poetry and the importance of people's voices and how that reacts to someone who is suffering from this condition, that, we both decided that it was more of a response to the script and following her direction. And she knew exactly what she wanted, and was excellent at getting us both to those places. And Roz will testify to this, that sometimes out here we go on a lot of different shoots, and there are varying degrees of professionalism. Sometimes it's pretty rough out there in terms of where you're sitting or what you're reading or how you're being spoken to. And this was a first-class operation. It really was. I mean, when you saw the people who were involved in just creating the look and the texture of the film, and when you see this, I defy anyone to think that this wasn't like a first-rate studio production, because it really turned out beautifully. And the awards that it's been given are very well earned, because it was just a lot of professionals. I think everyone was treated well, and I think the product shows.
Yeah, it definitely does, and that's a perfect lead-in. Swati, I wanted to have you talk a little bit about some of the awards that this film has won and the film festivals that you've been in. Can you share with people your experience with that?
Yes, sure, absolutely. So we just started submitting to film festivals. We have submitted to quite a few now, but we started a couple of months ago, and we got nominated. Our first nominations came in, this was about 20 days ago, and there's a film festival in Boston, which actually was held last weekend, and we got nominated for 6 awards there, and we finally won 2, and there were some other very good films there as well. So the 2 awards we actually already won last Friday this festival has a special award which they call the Story by the River Award for Excellence in Storytelling. And we won that award. And we also won another award for Best Production Design. So that just happened 2 days ago, so we were very happy about that.
Well, that's very exciting and well-deserved. Well-deserved. Are you planning on being in additional film festivals?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We have, like I said, we have been submitting, and we'll continue to submit to some of the, to the top tier festivals, middle tier, all sorts of festivals, and we are, hoping. So as the results will come in over the year, we will find out, how it goes. But our hope is we'll get selected to, several other film festivals. And also, I'm not sure whether this is the right point, but I would, since it sort of feeds into it, something else that we've been working alongside, submitting to festivals, is approaching various Alzheimer's associations. Carlin Fournier, who's our associate producer, and she's been working very, very hard to make connections, and she came on the project from the get-go, and I worked with her, for a while now. And so she has been reaching out to several Alzheimer's associations. I think, Lori, the reason we are on the show today is because of her. I think she made the connections. And so we are now supported by several of them, because several of them watched Remember When, and then they came on board as partners. And one of them is Cure Alzheimer's Fund. The other is Al's Moving Mind. And they are allowing us to promote this film because they see the value of it, and they see the reason, to their members and to people. And so that's another, venue we are sort of working on to find more partners and just to get the film out there so people can see it and see the challenges people face and just to shed more awareness to the issue.
Well, I think that's great. And I don't know if I sent this to you or not, but if not, I can. But you can input your film, just the trailer, into the Alzheimer's Speaks resource directory, if that'll help you in terms of our video section, or if you want to even, be listed as a speaker or something to talk about the film, because some actors and directors are doing that as well. And and stuff. So just there's a few different opportunities. So if I didn't send that to you, let me know, and I'll make sure that I get that out to you.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I really appreciate that. I would love to have that. Yes.
Okay, sounds good. I will send that to you probably while we're talking or shortly after. Roz, for you, how important is it for you in the films that you make to have a powerful message versus just simply being entertainment?
Oh, I would almost say it's number one, Lori, for me. Not to say that I don't do other films. As an actor, you kind of have to do whatever at the time until we get to a place where we can make choices. But if I know a film has a voice and is speaking something of import, it has my whole heart. It has my whole heart and soul, because it's, to me, filmmaking, the arts generally are the voice of people. They're the voice that can speak the unspoken, can speak for the people who don't have a voice. And here particularly, many people in this film don't have a voice out in the world. Especially those with Alzheimer's, their voice goes, basically. So for me to have any film or anything I'm working on that has some sort of message or some sort of heart behind it really captures my whole heart and soul. It's why I do what I do.
Well, you do it beautifully, and it definitely shows. Swati, were you surprised at people's reactions? Like me, I watched it and it twisted and turned. I wasn't quite sure where the film was going. In part is because I've played so many different roles in my life, not in terms of acting, but in terms of dementia. And so, maybe my eye was looking at it a little bit differently. Have you heard that from others? But I loved how it captured my attention the whole way through, and I really wasn't sure for quite a while where this was landing.
Of course, that was very much by design. So I'm very pleased. As a director, I seem to have done my job. Thank you. And, that is certainly, what's interesting is that to the level that it has happened, it took me a little bit by surprise. I was expecting some twists for sure, because of course there is a big twist in the film. But then people who watched this, specifically people who know it's about Alzheimer's. Not everybody knows the subject matter, right?
Yeah.
But people who know the subject matter, I find that their experience is actually much more, much deeper. They are more intrigued because they're already aware of a little bit of what the topic's about. Mm-hmm. So they are, as audience, we guess, right? We want to guess and we want to say, okay, this is what's happening. Oh, no, wait, this is what's happening. Oh, no, wait, that's not what's happening. And I find it very gratifying because that seems like almost, especially like I said, if people are aware of the topic, then they have that. But beside that, for me, the biggest moment of gratification is when people who have watched the film respond to me by sharing their own story. Mm-hmm. And I know that my film has touched their hearts if they are moved enough that they will, I'll get an email or I'll get a phone call or whatever, and then they will say, oh, yeah, I watched your film, and then, blah, blah, blah. And then very quickly, or it's almost like they want to now, they are moved enough to share their pain or joy or their own experience of life and love. And that is very, very gratifying to me. The other day I got an email where somebody watched it, and this guy, he wrote me an email and said that after, his mother is taking care of somebody, his grandmother really, and he said that after he watched it, he was so moved, he picked the phone and called his mom, and he was on the phone with his mother and had a long chat, and he told her how awesome she is and what a wonderful job she's doing, and how isolating she must be feeling. And he said to me, and I was crying, by the way, as I was reading this email, and he said that my mother was so happy to hear from me, and she said, it must have been God who asked you to call me today because I was feeling so low and so lonely. And your phone call has, and I was so touched. So those are the really rewarding moments, because then, when people watching it feel that they're not alone, or people then go and make somebody else feel that they're not alone, that's really very rewarding.
Well, and I think that's the beauty of the film media is it gives people another venue, another platform, and they're a little surprised. It's not reading something, it's not listening something. I mean, it's taking it all in, and a lot of times they think they're going to watch to be entertained, but they're just truly touched, and it's educating in a really kind of subconscious mode, which turns into, for so many people, a level of conscious caring, because you've raised that awareness and you've connected with their heart, and they want to make a difference. And so it's very subtle, but so powerful, so powerful. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more film being used for education and awareness. And if we don't, I think we're fools. I think it's a brilliant way to be able to work with people. And I'm kind of shocked at how many people have been approaching me. I bet I get a new film every week. People approaching me. So this is really becoming a hot topic. And the resources are still, even, one a week sounds like a lot, but it's still so much less than what is needed out there, because again, the real kicker is we need organizations, and we need funding behind getting these films out so that they're just not lost, so that they're not beautifully made.
Absolutely.
And just,
Absolutely.
lost in this world. We need to reach more people, with them. So, I'll do everything I can to help raise awareness, for your film, because it is it's just beautifully done, and it's a topic that needs to be addressed, and it's part of what is talked about or is shown, I should say, really in the film, is really very taboo topic when it comes to dementia, and people might say, well, what do you mean? And, well, we can't tell you because we'll give it away, But there are a lot of taboo topics when it comes to caring for someone with dementia, that we've got to get out of the closet, and we have to get people looking at the true needs to help people live balanced lives, both those with dementia and those that care for them. And, we can't keep it underground anymore. These conversations have to be made. They're powerful, and people shouldn't feel embarrassed. They shouldn't feel intimidated. They shouldn't feel guilty. Emotions are very healthy. And, we've got to get rid of the shame and the stigma attached to this disease. And I think films like yours, like Remember When, are really going to help make a huge, huge difference in the world in terms of doing that. So, again, really appreciate that. Stanley, for you, did making this film, did it change you as a person?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly it raised my awareness of the ramifications, I think, as I mentioned before, are so numerous, in terms of the financial toll, the emotional toll it takes on those surrounding the afflicted. And there are just so many stories. And so, as I mentioned, that my friend now has the wife, and I'm seeing that on him. I mean, it's a terrible financial burden on him to be raising this son and to be trying to make a living, at the same time. And, he always posts on Facebook. I attended his wedding, and it was a beautiful affair, a joyous affair. Who would have thought, sitting there at that reception and seeing those two together, that this was the fate that was going to be with them just a few short years later? And believe me, it's just like, night and day. And but they're bearing it up, they're getting through. And he has caregivers who come over and help, and he's very involved, with his church, and they've been very supportive. But he's obviously having to dedicate his life at home to his wife, and to raising this boy. And he's a good guy, It's one of those things, It's just the numbers, It was just bad luck, I guess. I don't know what to call it, but sure. And as Roz mentioned, we always try to find these projects because these are the ones that we talk about months later. These are the ones that we're still talking about after doing this film, and I hope to be talking about it next year at this time. And I was scheduled to do a music video today with a singer by the name of Halsey. I don't know if I'm going to be talking about this next week.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know who Halsey is. I'm way too old. But yeah, these are the projects that resonate in our careers and that we look for, and I was very privileged to be able to take advantage of being cast in this one.
Well, you did a marvelous job playing the role of George in the film, as Roz did with Rose and Allen with Dr. Mack. Very, very powerful film, and it'll be fun to watch it as it gets out into the world and to hear the response from people. I'm hoping, and I firmly believe that it will make a huge difference in terms of having a conversation regarding dementia care and how it affects people on a really, really deep personal level, one that we don't talk about often. And it needs to be addressed. Swati, what's next with the film?
Right. So of course we are on the film festival circuit, and we're hoping, to be selected to some of the other festivals. So that'll create a buzz. And we are another thing is, of course, we're looking for partners for Alzheimer's and associations and caregivers associations and stuff like that. And the idea is that what we would like to do is that after the film comes off the festival circuit and is finally released, on platforms like Vimeo or whichever, we would, either give a discount to the members of our partner organizations, or we will donate a percentage of our earnings to them as well. But eventually, what I want to do, of course, is maybe a year down the line, or whichever, how things proceed, we would also be open to just giving away the film, to our partner charities, or so they can use the film at their fundraising events or other events for awareness, for education. So that's for the film. I mean, the film is obviously not publicly available to watch right now because it's on the festival circuit. But for people in your audience who would like to watch the film when it comes out, if they can email their name, we can do it two ways. If they email their name, city, and state to my email address, or I can give you another one, then we can try to let them know if we get into a film festival near them, so they can come out and watch it. But also, we're making this list of these people, and we'll certainly let them know and send them an email when the film is actually released online and available to watch. So that's what's happening with the film now.
Okay, great. And how long, can you tell people how long the film is?
It's 23 minutes long.
Okay, great. And, if it comes in your area, you definitely want to see it. And I would encourage people to get on that list, because if you can't see it today, it'll still have an impact on you tomorrow when the time is right. Do you have any other projects regarding dementia or caregiving that you're going to be working on, Swati?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not, well, yeah. So I'm working on a few of the projects, but one of them is a feature that I actually wrote before I even wrote Remember When? And that deals with, again, it doesn't have dementia, but it has aspects, it has mental illness in it. And it has, it's basically 3 stories of grief, cancer, mental illness, 3 different stories, 3 strangers. And they meet, through chance circumstances, and then they form friendships and help each other go on. And so again, that project again deals with this. Certainly, caregiving is part of all 3 stories. And like I said, that seems to inform everything I do right now. And so it deals with the complexity of life and living and how we go on and make tough choices. And again, a character-driven film. And that's what I'm working on now. And which, the script is ready, everything's ready. We have the project plan. We have all we are really looking for is we're looking for investors for that film. And as soon as the funding is complete, we will get on and shoot it.
Wonderful. Well, again, I can't thank you all enough for participating in the show. I know you have really, really busy schedules. Roz, is there any last comments that you'd like to say to our audience?
Oh, gosh, there's so many things I wanted to say when other people were talking. Now it's all a bit too late. But just to say that it's been an absolute pleasure to work on this film. I think it is a very important film, and I know Swati is going to do wonderful things. She's a fantastic director, great to work with, and the rehearsal period was certainly a really important part of making the film. And also, I forgot to mention, we had a photographic session with the actor who I play with. I play with them both, but one of them. And that, for me, was a very important part of getting prepared for the film also. There were photos of the before and after. So it was showing the life before and the life as it is now, basically. But I think, Swati is going to go on to do wonderful things, and I applaud any filmmakers out there who are giving voice to important things at this point in time. The world needs this, and if we as artists who have always been visionaries in society can't do this, no one will. So we have to do it, and Swati is one of those people that will do it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Stanley, how about you? Anything that you'd like to add?
Well, how could I add to that? That was that's it. That is it. And it was just a great privilege to work with the cast and the crew. It's always great to work with people who know what they're doing. That doesn't often happen, sometimes at my level anyway. And it was a great privilege. And to have something that will resonate with people is certainly a great, great bonus. So thank you, Swati. Thanks, Ross.
Wonderful. I'm going to just read a couple of quotes from people. We've got one from, Jolene Rocky, the creator of, or the author of Creating Moments of Joy. She says, the story was beautiful. I love the angle of Rose, the openness, so your imagination can lead the life of unknown factors. It isn't sad or happy. It just is. Your story is whatever the viewer wants it to be, and it's just beautifully done. And again, I think that gets back to, depending on what angle you're coming from, you're going to see this in a different light. And I think it'll be a great film for conversation with families, with professionals, with advocates as well. But you've just got some wonderful kudos from many, many people around who have seen it, and that's just one of several quotes. Any last comments, Swati, that you want to say?
Yeah, well, I guess just a couple of things. Well, first of all, I want to, thank my actors. I think for me, the joy of making a film is working with actors, and Roz and Stanley and Allen and all the other supporting cast. We had other actors, Chopay, who played Maggie, and the nurse at home, and so everybody with smaller roles, they came well prepared. The main actors, they brought their A game, and I'm very aware that I'm a younger filmmaker, and Roz and Stan and Alan, they're so much more experienced than I am, and yet they took my direction and they understood my vision, and it was a very humbling but very, very gratifying and very rewarding experience for me. And so there's that, and the other thing is, if people want to watch the film, again, if they want to get on our list, then they can send an email to my email address, which you've already published on your page, on your blog, swati@tiredandbeatup.com, or they could even send an email if they can remember the name of the film, Remember When, @tiredandbeatup.com. Either one will get to us, and we'll be making this list. We'll let them know what's happening. They can also get updates via our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/rememberwhenthefilm. And that's pretty much it, Laurie. Thanks very much for having us and, giving us this chance to talk to your audience. You're doing great work, and thank you for having us.
Oh, well, thank you all. And, on the Alzheimer's Speaks radio page, as well as the blog, all the contact information is listed for Swati, for Roz, for Stanley, and for Alan as well. I thought it was really interesting, just in a wrap-up conversation, that everyone kind of said, well, they haven't really been, for the most part, personally touched, but yet your stories were so in depth of how you were touched. And I think that that's really common, that people think, well, no, I really haven't been. But when they sit down and they talk about it, the depth of their knowledge is so much deeper than what their awareness even is many times. And if we can all, as a society, remember that we do know more than we think we know, and we always know more than somebody else, but we can always learn from somebody as well. Those are the collaborations that are strong. Those are the things that are going to really change the world and how we care. So again, thank you all so much for being part of Alzheimer's Speaks today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you. If you missed our last show, we talked about Massachusetts going dementia friendly. And our next show, we were going to have Norms McNamara and Jane Moore on the show. I'm not quite sure if Norms is going to be able to make it. He is, again, the founder of the Purple Angel Project, but he's in the hospital. But we're gonna figure that out and how we're going to forge forward. I think we'll still cover the topic, even if it's just with Jane, if Norms can't make it. This morning we did Dementia Chats, which is our educational webinar. And we had a really interesting discussion about what is needed to make us more dementia friendly. And we got talking about stigma and funding, and we really focused on how can we help families. And the conversation was very interesting. I still have to tweak the video, but then I'll be uploading that to YouTube and posting that. And you'll be able to hear the insights from our experts who are living with the disease. Our last Dementia Chats, we discussed why people challenge those that have a dementia diagnosis. And you wouldn't think that happens, but it happens more often than you think. I also wanted to mention some upcoming previews of the film His Neighbor Phil. That's a 90-minute Hollywood film that's all about dementia and kind of family dynamics. It'll be at the Maplewood Community Center here in Maplewood, Minnesota on February 16th. And I will be out in Seattle from the 8th to the 11th, and we're going to do several screenings out there. And you can check with Skyline Assisted Living for more details on that film. I'm hoping to get the itinerary. They're still firming things up. And then on the blog, I just want to highlight a couple of really interesting articles. One is called About Delirium. And that's a really interesting article because a lot of people don't know what delirium is, and I won't give it up. But that was posted on the 22nd. On the 19th, I did a post for Naomi Files, TEDx in Amsterdam. And that's just gotten a lot of comments. And she's just a phenomenal woman who, has lived and breathed dementia basically all of her life since a little girl. And then the last one I want to mention is the Neuro Film Festival. Entries are due by March 1st, and they are, looking for films, and, feel free to submit your story to them, and you might be able to win $1,000. Until next week, stay safe and warm, and be blessed. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.
It's time to rethink, renew, and reimagine retirement. Hey everybody, Jared Sebesta here, host of Retire Repurposed. Now, this podcast is about the non-financial parts of retirement, which many times can be even more challenging than the financial. We believe retirement is not the end, rather the beginning of what could be the most impactful, purposeful, and fulfilling season of a person's life. So don't retire, become repurposed. To listen now, search Retire Repurposed on your favorite podcast platform, Senior Resource, or Life Audio.